welcome to the very first Comics Radar video review. Now, I hope you've enjoyed our audio shows over at comicsradar.com, and I hope you're joining us from there. If not, feel free to stop on by at comicsradar.com, check out our blog and the audio shows. I'm your host, John Campbell, and today I'm going to be talking about the Aladdin comic book.
Come on down, stop on by, hop a carpet and fly to another Arabian night.
Okay, I'm not actually talking about the Disney Aladdin, but it seems to have a little bit of influence on our on the book we are talking about, so I thought it was appropriate. We're talking about Aladdin: Legacy of the Lost from Radical Comics. This is issue number 1 of 3, and they are 64-page books. Now, I think about like 50 or so pages of that is actually Aladdin story, and there's some additional material after that. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I was given a preview PDF of that, and that's what we're going to be looking at here. So I did not pay the $4.99 for this book, but I'll let you know at the end whether or not I think it's a well-deserved $4.99. Now, I've always had some issues with Radical Comics in the past. They've always seemed to have stellar artwork, but a story that just seems a little bit lacking. Whether it just feels stilted or a derivative, there's always been something lacking when I've tried the book before. Now, this one doesn't seem to have that problem. It actually moves fairly quickly and fairly smoothly, thanks to the writer Ian Edgington, and the artist on this first issue is Patrick Riley. Now, if you continue to the next 2 issues, you're going to see the artist Stepan Sajic step in. He's known for, he's done some Top Cow issues, like he did Witchblade for a while, Broken Trinity, and Ian Edgington, the writer, is an English writer who's known for 2000 AD. He's done a couple issues of Witchblade, and I think probably what his biggest credit has been, he wrote X-Force when they were doing that Counter X period. He was a co-writer with Warren Ellis when Warren Ellis was the organizer for the different subsidiary X books. Now, as I said, first off, always beautiful books from Radical Comics, and here is no exception. We have 3 covers for this first issue. This is our cover A by Marco Djordjevic, and honestly, I think it's my favorite out of the 3. I kind of like the composition of it, and it really gives our bad guy here, Lord Qasim, a real sense of evil. We have our second cover by Arthur Soydum, who you know from Marvel Zombies. A passable cover, not my favorite though. And then here we have our incentive cover. I don't know exactly what's going on with the incentive, but this one is from Clayton Crane. You know, very passable. I like the action in this one, but overall I think I prefer the other one. So, let's dive into this book and see what we think, okay? Now, right off the bat, it frightened me a little bit. We have this page, we get one caption, "You're late," and this big page with nothing but camels. We get a cave and a couple camels, and that's it. So I was right off the bat thinking this was going to be just as slow as the original Radical Comics that I wasn't really a fan of. Now, luckily, they alleviate that fairly quickly. We jump right into our story with, we have our bad guy here, Lord Qasim, who has some thugs that he sent out to get some information on what happened to a certain woman that died while giving childbirth to our hero of our story, Aladdin. Now, what significance that woman has, what significance to Lord Qasim is, and what significance to Aladdin or anything else in the story, they don't really explain, but hopefully we get some of that in the next 2 issues. Now, one of the things that bothered me a little bit about this, and I'm going to mention it a couple times while I'm talking about this, is look at our bad guy, Lord Qasim here. And then look at, over here, we have Jafar from Disney's Aladdin. Just a little bit too spot on for me. You know, they both got the big turban. They both have got the evil goatee, because everybody evil has to have a goatee. And they're both fairly Anglo, looking for Arabian characters. It wasn't a huge upsetting thing, you know, at the start, but it was there's touches in there. Now, of course, this Lord Qasim has to set himself as evil, even more evil than our Jafar. So he has, some kind of sand monsters. They eat some of our lesser bad guys because, he's evil, in case you didn't get it the first time. Then now I've rearranged these pages and I've cut out a lot of pages to just kind of give you guys the visual feel of them. And it's not exactly what you're going to be seeing in the book. And I hope the colors are right on too. But again, I said this is the review PDF, so I extracted a few pages just to kind of give you an idea for it. Here we're introduced to our character of Aladdin. It says, it pays me greatly to take your money, gentlemen, but I'm sure I can learn to live with it. He has some kind of that same cocky street attitude as, again, the Disney Aladdin, and has a little bit of the visual style too. Again, we're looking at an Anglo-Arabian character. They both have the shoulder-length hair, and they both also have kind of a large nose. If you look at this here panel here, and then we compare that to that image of Aladdin from the Disney cartoon, this panel here, and then we look at this here, it kind of made me think, like, is there some significance? I did a little bit of a search. There's no a stereotype as far as I could find of Arabians having large noses, and it just seemed like they were a little too spot on. So I wanted to see, like, what traditionally Aladdin looked like. Well, Aladdin was originally in a Middle Eastern tale, but it was set in China. So here's one of the original images. Looks nothing like our Disney version or our new Radical Comics version. And here's another one. Now, this gentleman in the outfit here, that's Aladdin. Darker skin, completely different. Actually, a Chinese setting. Now, to be fair, the book was set in China, but the China they describe was much more like the Middle East than it was like China. So I can kind of forgive them on that. But when we see these drastically different Aladdins, it makes me think that Radical Comics kind of was doing this on purpose to keep it a little bit closer to our Disney property, but giving it a little bit more of their adult edge that their books seem to be known for. And of course, Aladdin has a little bit more of that adult edge himself. Was raised pretty much in a brothel. He drinks and steals, but not in like the lovable rapscallion kind of way that the Disney version was. Again, I'm going to mention just the Disney lookalikes, because this is two more of our characters. This is the king and his daughter. Just a little too spot on to the Disney versions. Again, we get the large turban, the Anglo male with the large white beard and white mustache, and the daughter who's wearing the veil, exactly as in the Disney version. Of course, our princess is Soraya instead of Jasmine, and the king is the king. Anyways, the story follows pretty much the traditional lines. I'm not going to fault them too much for that, because whether you're going by the Disney version or going by the original tale, they both pretty much follow along the same lines. Some versions have him rubbing a magic ring and then finding the lamp. Either way, Aladdin goes into a cave in search of riches. Boom. But he doesn't touch the riches because he has to get the lamp instead to start off. Something happens, and I'm not going to tell you what, because there's actually some pretty cool action scenes in here. I don't want to spoil those for you. He gets trapped in the cave, he rubs the lamp, and out pops a genie. Now, our genie is our biggest departure from the Disney version. I'm glad they didn't do, a blue guy. They went really out there. Looks a lot more fantasy. Looks very cool. I love the art style in this. A little upset. Patrick Riley is only doing this first issue. Beyond that, it's going to be Stepan Sajic. Stepan Sajic is a great artist in his own right, but I really enjoyed this Patrick Riley, and we haven't seen a lot of his work outside of doing covers for Radical Comics. But overall, I really enjoyed the book. I hope you guys do too. I'm going to go ahead and give it a B-. The two things I would have changed is the characters are a little spot on to Disney, and I've mentioned that enough, so I'm not going to mention it again. And the other thing is, there are a couple moments where this leans into the mature category, Like, there's a couple bloody moments, and like I said, mentioned the issues with Aladdin being raised in a brothel. And I think this book would have been a great introduction for that preteen category that's really hard to get into reading. It's a really interesting tale. I would have loved to see them just soften it just a little bit from where it's at to kind of appeal to that preteen, because with this beautiful artwork and a story that's kind of familiar from the Disney story, I think it would really play over well with them. But, that's their choice. So anyways, that has been the Comics Radar video review. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you guys will join me over at comicsradar.com to leave me feedback on this, and check out our blog and our audio shows too. Until next time, thanks, and bye.